Namaste. I'm going to talk about the lotus today. And I know in the past I've talked about the symbology of the lotus flower. It means so many different things like purity, spiritual growth, transformation, to name a few. It's been used in a lot of ancient cultures. It was used by the Egyptians. Obviously, it's seen a lot in the East in art that's depicted. It's one of the symbols that I've used since I've started teaching yoga. You know, my first name was Above and Beyond Yoga, and my symbol was a blue lotus. And then I took over Half Moon, and it became the moon. And now that I'm Moonbeam Yoga, I'm putting the lotus back into the symbol. Like if you look at my Moonbeam meditations that I've been putting out on Spotify and Apple Music, that's the symbol I'm talking about. It looks like the moon, but then there's a lotus up underneath. So I even have it tattooed on my hip. So I love the symbology of the lotus. And I know in the past I've shared with you guys the Om Mani Padme Hum. This mantra, I think I even sang it to you the other day at the end of practice. But this has been adopted by the Buddhist. And so if you look at prayer flags, lots of times the prayer flags will say Om Mani Padme Hum. The wheels that are spun at Buddhist temples, sometimes it's inscripted Om Mani Padme Hum. That is one of the mantras that you use when you're spinning the wheel of life. But I want to tell you a story. I usually share this in teacher training, and I'm going to share it with you now. There's a story of a man who wanted so desperately to become a monk. And he would visit this monastery. And when he finally was accepted, I don't know how all that works, but when he was accepted into the monastery, he worked for years, you know, doing his spiritual practices. And once he evolved to a certain degree, you know, and he thought, okay, he had mastered being a monk or mastered this spiritual practice, he really wanted to go out into the world and he wanted to teach it and he wanted to share it because he had gained so much from it. So he went to like the headmaster or the head monk and asked if he could get permission to leave the monastery to go teach. And so he was granted permission to do this. And his first thought was, I know exactly who I'm going to go teach. I remember there being this hermit that lived on this island in the middle of this big lake. And he's got to be lonely. And what is he doing with all of his time? Why not give him this practice and he can kind of use it like a monk would in a monastery? So that's what he set out to do. And so when he went to the lake, he paid a boatman to take him over to this island. And when he went to the island, he met the hermit. The hermit welcomed him and offered him some tea. And so they sat and drank some tea. And the monk was trying to teach him the mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. Well, the hermit listened and nodded and said, you know, this is actually part of my practice. And when he stated the mantra, the monk corrected him and said, oh, you're not enunciating it correctly. And so for the mantra to work and to be really beneficial, you have to say it the right way. So the hermit was very receptive and very respectful and said, oh, okay, you know, I'll start working with it differently. So the monk was happy. He had gained the rapport of his first student and decided it was time to go seek out the next student who was willing. So he paid the boatman to cross him back over the water. Halfway to the shore, he feels a tapping on his shoulder. And he looks up surprisingly to see the hermit. And the hermit is standing on the water and had walked on the water. And he tapped him on the shoulder and said, I can't remember how you told me to enunciate the mantra. So before you leave, tell me one more time so that I can hang on to it. And then the monk's looking at him like bewildered, going, I think you're okay. So part of the moral of the story is tomato, tomato, Caribbean, right? Is it really how we say, how we enunciate something? Or is it the intention of what we're, is the intention, the energy, and the emotion behind what we're saying? That's part of the moral of the story. The other part, I would say, is, you know, we may think someone is lonely and destitute because they choose to live a certain lifestyle, but it may be their choice. It may be their choice, and it may be that depleting themselves of the pleasures of life is a way for them to do their spiritual practice. Like, he didn't know the hermit knew this. He didn't know what the hermit was doing on the island. He felt sorry for the guy and thought it would give him a little tool to use. So think about our judgment that we have on people when we're looking at them or listening to them. There's so much judgment happening, and there's so much deception, and there's so much false light in the world that we really have to be discerning and, really follow what we feel is correct, but with letting the judgment go. So that we're not judging someone based upon their looks or their lifestyle or even the words that they're saying, but go deeper than that and really look into their heart and soul and to really get to know a person. So I've shared this in the past. I'll share it one more time. When I first started to teach yoga, I had this student, and she was a regular student at the studio that I was teaching at the time. She bounced around to all the teachers, all the classes, and she was phenomenal. Like, she could do anything. Her body would just contort, and she was always, a very happy-going person. But one day we brought a vegetarian meal, and it was some special event. We all brought kind of like a potluck thing, and she would not touch the salad that I had prepared. I made some Asian salad. And, it has oils in it. And she was like, ooh, I can't do anything with oils. And so I was like, wow, this lady's very healthy. Not only does she do all this yoga and she can do everything physically that the poses ask for, but she's really paying attention to her body and what she's putting into her body. Good for her. And then I found out a few months later, she started to change a little bit. Some of her behavior started to change a little bit. And come to find out, she had addiction issues, and she also had struggles with an eating disorder. So, I was putting her up on this, like, kind of pedestal, like, oh my God, look at her. She's so healthy, and she's so self-aware, and she's so health conscious, and look at how beautiful her poses are. And then, she had a relapse and, had to deal with her addiction. I think her addiction was with pills. And then, of course, that started the eating disorder. And anyway, her practice fell apart and she kind of disappeared. And then she came back later. And basically, the story is to share we all struggle somehow, somewhere in our life. And even as a yoga teacher, me thinking, oh, she's this great yogi, you actually discover, oh, she's got problems just like everybody else. She's got hang-ups. She has judgments. She has issues. She has addictions, just like everybody else. So you never know from looking at a person or from even talking to a person half the time what their struggles are. So remember that as we go through our practice, and we will be using a yoga strap. This strap I already have looped, and there's a certain way that you loop it where if you pull on either side, it's not going to come untethered. So go ahead and prepare that. If you don't have a strap, then maybe a belt. And I'm thinking a belt just because it can tie. Or if you have a really long scarf that you don't mind tying into a knot, try that. This is going to be I'm not going to say a difficult practice, but it is going to have Lotus in it. And so there's going to be some advanced, I guess, I don't want to call it advanced because some people can get right into it. You know, some people are very advanced mentally with the yoga, but they have some physical ailments that are blocking them from doing Lotus position. So however you want to look at it, grab a strap or some kind of apparatus to help, and we'll get started. We're going to start on our backs and have the strap within hand's reach. And when you start on your back, feel free to rest the hands on or off the body. At first, just grounding yourself and connecting to the places in your body that feel heavy and planted down on the floor. For instance, focus all the way down at your feet. Feel your heels cementing downward. And then scan through the body and notice the next heavier place. Right now, my heaviness is falling into my sacrum. Moving on up the body, I can feel it in my back ribs, close to my shoulder blades, my elbows, and the back of my head. And then pay attention to the areas that may not be touching the floor. For instance, you may have some space between the back of your ankles and the earth, maybe behind your knees, under your low back, or perhaps the base of your neck. Now that you've been connecting a little bit to the physical body, focus now on the subtle body. You can do this by simply holding in on your breath. As you breathe in and out through your nose, increasing the air supply into your lungs, knowing that this is oxygenating your system, but also providing so much more. Take 3 more deep breaths. And then let's take a hold of the strap. And you're gonna bring the right foot to the strap and sail the leg up in the air. At the same time, you're gonna fire into the leg that's stationed on the floor. So you're pressing out through both heels. As you press out through your left heel, notice if your knee tightens up. If not, tighten up your knee, engage your quads. Allow it to even engage your glutes. Separate the toes really wide on each foot. And then press the right foot into the strap. Open up the back of the knee. And remember, you're in command of how much or little you draw the leg in towards your body. From Padangusthasana A, take both ends of the strap into your right hand. Your left hand can station down your left hip. And you're going to open the leg off to the right. Stay aligned through your pelvis, not allowing it to twist. Breathe into the inseam of your right leg. We need this type of external rotation from the hip for Lotus. We'll also need some flexible knees and feet. So on your next in-breath, go ahead and sail that leg back up overhead, but this time bend your knee and reposition your hand. Instead of holding the straps, you're going to grab a hold of your foot and you're driving the right knee down towards the right side of your mat. Now feel free to keep the left heel resting on the floor along with your head so that we're just coming basically into a half the baby pose. The more you tug down on the foot, the more you're going to work into this right hip. Again, you're in control of how much or little you give yourself. Practice with caution and compassion. On your next in breath, slide your left foot back. Take the strap off the right foot and cross that ankle to the left thigh bone. Pick up your left foot, lace your hands behind your left leg. Gently hugging and squeezing it in towards your upper body. Stay anchored down on your low back. But then start to create some ankle rotations with your left foot. Circling it around and around 5 to 7 times. And then reversing that flow. Notice when you start to concentrate on your ankle, you may forget about your right hip. So bring that left foot back to stillness. And then hug that left thigh in. Remembering we're trying to achieve this warm up also in the hips. One more breath. And release. All right, we'll take the right leg down the length of the mat, and we'll take the left foot into the strap for Padangusthasana A. Again, this is where you can use a belt or a knotted scarf. You can get creative with objects you have at home. Flex both ankles, press out through both heels, structure the legs front and back. And for Padangusthasana A, take both ends of the strap into your left hand. Right hand will hold down the right hip. Fan that leg away from your body. Breathe through the inseam of the leg. On your next inhale, come back to Padangusthasana A. And as you exhale, bend the knee. Take the hand hold to the pinky toe side of the foot and gently draw it down. You are pulling the foot to sink the knee, which works into the left hip. Do some deep belly breaths. When you're ready, inhale, walk your right foot back. Take your left ankle over the right knee. Pick up that right foot so you can lace your hands behind. And another thing you can do with the strap, by the way, because sometimes that's challenging for people, you can take the strap behind your thigh and use your hands like this. Okay, so there's always ways to help modify or to cater to poses. And if I don't cover anything, you can always reach out and ask. With the right foot, start the ankle rotations. 5 to 7 times one way. And then reverse it. There's always one section that feels a little bit more stiff. And then squeeze the leg in. Mindful breathing. And release. All right, we're going to turn over to one side of the body, and we're going to come all the way up to stand at the top of the mat. So when you come to stand at the top of the mat, have your feet rooting down, hip distance apart. Bring your hands to prayer position at your heart. As you inhale, sweep the arms to your sides and up to Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, pour over the lower body to Uttanasana. Now from Uttanasana, just hang free for a moment. Luckily, we warmed up the back of the legs. And we're going to continue to warm up the legs, the hips, the knees, the ankles to prepare for Lotus. So we're going to go ahead and focus on the feet. So bring your hands forward on your toes, lift up through your heels, start to bend the knees, come to toe balance. And so, you know, you can stay here using your hands to help with balance, but better yet, see if it's possible to bring the spine erect. And instead of just having the hands to the heart, fan the fingers open, with the exception of the thumbs and pinkies, for the lotus hand mudra. And if you want the lotus to shine over the crown of the head, you can build it up. One more breath, setting your drishti. Setting an eye or your eyes on one sedentary place, preferably something unmoving. And now fan the arms around, sink back to your heels, straighten out through your legs. Uttanasana. Inhale, lift and lengthen halfway up. Exhale, step it down the mat, lower down to Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, Urdhva Mukha, upward facing dog. And exhale, Adho Mukha, downward facing dog. Press into the palms, splay through the fingers. Sail your seat up and down. Make sure there's not too much excess space between the big toes, because we're going to take the right leg skyward. We're going to bend the knee, take downward scorpion. Keep pushing back away from your wrist. Dip the head, maybe gaze up underneath the right arm. When you're ready, unroll the hip. Step your right foot all the way through between the hands. Sink your back knee, shin and foot. This is going to be our in-breath here. On the out-breath, we're taking half split, half Hanumanasana. So, of course, if you have blocks or if you need props to bring the floor to you, bring those into practice. And then we'll rock. Inhale and exhale. Continue that flow of movement. One more. Inhale, return to the sole of the foot, curl the back toes, step it to plank. Take the vinyasa if you choose. Remaining in downward facing dog to prep for the second side. Drive your heart back towards your thighs. Inhale, lift your left leg. Exhale, downward scorpion. When you're ready, unroll that left hip. Step the foot through. Sink the back knee, shin foot. This will be the inhale here, where we're purposely sinking through the pelvic floor. And then as we exhale, we take half split, half Hanumanasana. And then we'll start to roll back and forth between the two with the breath. One more. Return to the left foot. Curl the back toes under, step it to plank. Exhale, Chaturanga. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Hold and breathe. Next inhale, step the feet to the top of the mat. Open up your heart. Exhale, spill down. Inhale all the way up. Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, hinge forward again. Uttanasana. Inhale, lift halfway up. Exhale, bend the knees. Inhale, maybe straighten the spine, making it more vertical. Opening to the Lotus hand mudra as you set your gaze. Maybe bringing it over the crown. Om Mani Padme Hum. Celebrate the jewel of the lotus, the spirit of our own heart. Exhale, bring the hands down, heels down, straighten out the legs, fold your body in half. Inhale halfway up. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana, it's that low push-up. Inhale, open your heart and throat. Exhale, create the inversion. All right, minimize any excess space between the big toes. Inhale, right leg lifts. Take downward scorpion. And when you're ready, you're going to step the right foot just behind your right hand, okay? And then we're going to turn that foot 30 to 45 degrees. Plant your left hand, roll to the outer edges of both feet, and fly the right arm skyward. Now we're in Soma lunge, but see if it's possible to step the right ankle back, stacking side plank. All right, exhale, full plank. Bring the right knee and shin towards the top of the mat. Lower the back knee, untuck the back toes. All right, so what I want you to focus on is applying pressure through the right foot, right shin, right knee, back shin, back foot. And then you're going to engage and lift through the pelvic floor, and you're gonna lift in and up through the navel, up through the heart and crown, okay? So if we're gonna be lifting up, we can't keep leaning forward on the hands, so start to root down through the legs. Bring the arms back so you're creating a more vertical type of spine, but then pull up, root lock, draw up, belly lock. Reach the arms up overhead as well, upward pigeon. Personally, I don't think this pose gets enough attention. One more deep breath. Exhale, bring the hands down and slide your left leg back so the hips settle towards the floor. All right, we inhale, open up the front of the body. And as we exhale, we undulate down. Twice more, inhale, roll it up, one vertebra at a time. And then exhale, roll back down. Last one, inhaling. Exhaling. Inhale, halfway lift to plant the palms, to curl the back toes. Inhale, lift the back knee and step back chaturanga. All right, different transition. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, downward facing. Rediscover your breath as if it were for the first time today. The breath allows us to connect to the lotus of the heart. Inhale, left leg lifts, downward scorpion. Remember, we're going to Soma lunge, so the left foot steps just behind your left hand. Rotate to the outer edges of the feet. Ground your right hand. Take this Soma lunge. And if you're ready, step it into side plank to full plank. Now the left knee and shin will crank up behind the hands for pigeon. Now, upward pigeon. We have to anchor, right? We have to root to rise. So press through the areas of your body touching the floor. Start to erect the spine. Draw up through the pelvic floor, up through the navel, up through your heart, through the crown, through the fingertips. Hold and breathe. Rajagopatasana, take the hands down, sink the hips down, stack to the fingertips. Open the front of the body on the inhale, exhale, roll it down. Twice more. One more. Inhale halfway up, plant the palms, curl the back toes. When you're ready, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Now on your next inhale, I want you to fly the heels up to land softly to your knees. I want us to get a nice stretch in for, there's different ways to stretch the ankles, right? We could be in tabletop and push through the calf and heel to open up the back of the ankles, but since we're working towards a lotus, it's important to open the fronts of the feet, the front of the ankles. So if you sit back towards your heels, take your hands behind your back, lean towards your hands so that you can actually uplift your knees, your shins away from the floor. Some people like to add in a heart opener, so you're welcome to include that back bend. Or you may just want to focus on the feet. Breathe. We'll come back to table. Curl the toes, launch into down dog. And then we'll inhale, step the feet to the top of the mat, lift up halfway. Exhale, roll it down. Inhale all the way up. And we're going to do one more standing flow. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lift halfway, elevate your heels. Exhale, soften the knees. Moving into toe balance on the in-breath. Creating your lotus mudra on the out-breath. Your hands can stay here at the heart, or you can lift it over the crown. Om Mani Padme Hum. Bring the hands down, heels down, straighten your legs. Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, rise on up. Exhale, roll it on back. From downward facing dog, we're going to inhale, lift the right leg up. Take that downward scorpion. Notice how much better that standing leg is feeling. Unroll that hip, and your right foot is going to solidify and cement down about halfway up towards the hands. From here, press through the right foot, fly out through your arms, balance and breathe. From Dikasana, we're bending the standing leg to hook the left leg over. We'll wrap the right arm underneath the left. For Garudaasana. Garudaasana, we'll unwrap the arms. We'll stand strong in the right leg. And then we're going to catch the underside of that left foot. We'll use the hands to place it in half lotus. Your right hand can hold your foot. Feel free to thread your left arm behind your back. Half Padmasana, half lotus. If you have trouble with half lotus, then come into the figure 4, which looks like this. Remember this alternative on the second side. When you're ready, fly, Dakasana. Bend that knee that you're standing on, set the hands down, right foot steps back, take your vinyasa. Sometimes we whip through those poses, but you still want to be just as deliberate and mindful as you flow through those asanas as you would, say, the balancing poses. Inhale, left leg lifts. Take downward scorpion. Left foot steps halfway up the mat. Ground that foot. Fly up. Find some smooth air. When you're ready, you're coming up. Wrapping the right leg over, left arm beneath. Set your drishti. Come home to your breath. Let your breath connect you to the gem, to the spirit of your heart. Now, as you unwrap your arms, stand strong in your left leg, catch the right heel, bring the foot to half lotus or take figure four. Right arm behind the back. Stand tall. You're ready to take flight. Dakasana. You're ready to flow. Come back down, last vinyasa. If your ankles are really tight, you may want to do that ankle stretch again. Even child's pose could be a nice stretch for the fronts of the feet. Now to conclude this, we're going to look forward towards the hands. You can step or hop the feet up towards the front or Malasana squat. Very important pose to practice. Take the hands behind your back. Maybe straighten out through your legs and hover or just sink. All right. Let's see, which side we're going to do first. Let's start with the right. Bring the right foot to the inner left thigh. Since we have a strap, let's use it. Take the strap around the foot. Lift up your chest. And then exhale, forward fold. Continue to walk your hands down the strap. Reaching and radiating the heart up and down over your knee. If your hands have easy access to the foot, you can hold the foot and keep that action as if it were flush against a wall. Janu Shirshasana, head of the knee pose. Inhale, let's come up. Let's move that strap to the side. We're going to take this ankle, cross it over the left knee, bend that left knee, scoot a little closer, straighten out through your back, breathe into that right hip. Catch that right shin and foot with your arms. Straighten out your left leg. Cradle the leg pose, lifting and squeezing. And then rock the baby side to side. Just a little twisting and turning left and right. Now, take your right hand under to the heel, slide your left hand so it's holding the front of the foot. Bring that foot towards a half lotus, and then slide your left heel to stack underneath your right knee. All right, this might be a lot already. Remember to practice with caution and compassion. All of our bodies and life experience is different, so our bodies are going to be different. Work with what you have and do the best that you can. Inhale, lift up energetically, and exhale, forward fold. Find your edge. Wherever that may be, close your eyes and take 5 deep breaths. Inhale, we'll back away. And then lean back into your hands. And just flip flop the feet in and out. Bounce your knees up and down. And we'll take it to the other side. Left foot for Janu Shirshasana. Comes to the inner right thigh. You can use the strap or not, your choice. Lift up energetically, and as you exhale, forward fold. Engage the muscles through the right leg. So it's not just out there. You actually have the muscles hugging close to the bone. Contraction of the quads helps to support the stretch of the hamstrings. And then inhale, slowly remove that strap. Come on up. And stack the left ankle to the right thigh. Walk the right foot back. Scoot forward if you can. Keep the spine or back straight. And here's why. If you want to experiment, slump, create bad posture, you don't feel anything in the hip. So it really shows how everything's interconnected when we have the hands close to the body and we can straighten out through the spine on how that affects the hip. All right, and then we'll catch this leg with the arms or hands. Cradle the leg pose, lifting and squeezing. And then maybe a little rock the baby. And after rock the baby, let's take the left hand to the heel, slide your right hand to the top of the foot. So ideally, I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to turn towards you really quick. I see lots of students taking the foot way over. See how my foot's hanging off the thigh? That's a lot for the knee. Really, the foot should rest at this crease at your upper thighs. So ideally, this is another way to measure. Your heel should be in line with your belly button. And the sole of your foot, it may not be perfect, but it should be slightly facing up towards you. Okay. Now we'll lean back to slide the right heel to stack it underneath the left knee. And then we'll fold forward. And notice even folding forward, it's not just a great stretch for the hip, but it's going to stretch this ankle that's sitting in half lotus on your lap. Five breaths. Inhale, slowly come up. All right, we're gonna go into that hammock pose. Flip-flop the feet in and out. Maybe bounce the knees. All right, now this is where we're gonna use the strap again. And hopefully you guys all know, you should know by now, the symbol of infinity. It was really interesting. I had a session with Allison a couple days ago now, and she said, everybody she's been working on lately, because of all the excess energy kind of hitting the planet, that we're having to upgrade our neurological system. And she's been finding that with each person she's been working on. And when she was working at my chakras, it started at my core and then it went up and down into all of them. It was showing the sign of infinity, which I thought was a beautiful, beautiful imagery. All right, so let me just go ahead and tell you this. If Lotus is not for you, you already know that your hips, your knees, your ankles are just not going to be compatible with that pose, all right? You're probably going to be fine here in Sukhasana, where the ankles are wrapped up underneath the body. So this could be your Lotus for today, all right? And what you'll be doing is taking the strap underneath the foot and thigh, and then at the top you twist it, right? So when you twist it, it creates that sign of infinity, and then you'll loop the other side around that knee and foot, and then you have to tighten it up, right? So this way you're bound in Sukhasana. All right, so if you can only do half, okay, we're gonna start with the right heel up on the left thigh. So maybe you can do half Lotus here, but then the other foot is gonna have to be underneath. That's okay. I'll work with you really quick. Same idea. You take one end of the strap underneath your left thigh. There's no foot there, so that's all you need to catch with the strap. But then you twist it in the middle, and you loop it underneath the foot below and the thigh above, and then you tighten the strap that way, okay? If you can come into Lotus, now one way to come into Lotus is to keep the right foot on top. Have the left heel more ahead of your right knee so that as you fold, you can scoop up underneath and then bring that foot up to join. Now, lots of people can do Lotus, but then when we start doing this next sequence, the feet start to slide apart. If your feet start to slide, if you flex your ankles, it'll kind of lock you into place to help you from coming out. If you don't want to worry about that, or if it feels awkward to flex the feet, maybe your ankle bone is jabbing your skin too much, then you're going to do the same infinity, the same loop, and then tighten the belt. All right, so I'm going to turn back to the side. First thing we're going to do is lean into our seat, backside of our sits bones, and we're going to float the knees, catch up with the hands, shoulders back, heart open. Om Mani Padme Hum. You can use that mantra as you're holding this position. And then we're going to take the hands to the floor. We're going to start to lean forward so the shoulders stack over the hands. Push into your palms, squeeze up through your core, lift through your hip flexors, breathe. And then exhale, release. Sometimes blocks can help you to levitate more in that position. We're actually not fully levitating, but you get the idea. Now we're going to actually go forward. So you may want to kind of bump back a little bit on your mat. And we're going to come forward to the knees. Now some people can bring the hands to the heart and hold and balance. I'm not really there. And this is going to look really weird, and it may feel kind of weird, but it's not so bad if you keep bringing the forearms down and then just lower down with your hips, and you can straighten out through your arms. Breathe. Hands up underneath the shoulders, and you can even add in little push-ups here. Do 3 if you decide to do them. When you inhale, press up, you're gonna sit back down. You may plop down, that's okay. And then maybe stretch out over your lap. And at this point, your body may have had enough and you may need to come out and take a break. So you can pause the video. If you're still good, you're gonna bounce forward. And we're gonna work towards tranquility pose as our final inversion today. So tranquility pose is very similar to shoulder stand, except we balance the knees on the hands. So I'm gonna go into it now. So I'm building my back up like shoulder stand. This is tranquility. To come out of tranquility, you come out like you would in regular shoulder stand, and then you can take a fish pose as a counter. Now, again, if your legs are done, your hips are done, feel free to untangle the legs, unbind from the strap. You can straighten your legs, root through the elbows, and do the regular fish. As you exhale, you can release. Pulling one knee in and the other. And I always like a supine twist, so if you want to add that in, you can. Otherwise, you can prepare for Shavasana. So we ended with the big finale. Tying ourselves up, pretzeling the lower body, and doing a few little fancy maneuvers. Just notice for a moment your feet and your ankles. Like right now, my feet and ankles are really tingly. So just notice if you're feeling any sensation. Let that be absorbed. Right now, my calves and shins feel really heavy. You may have a completely different feeling down there. But just notice how they feel and ensure that your muscles are relaxing. Relax your knees. Maybe even notice if they're feeling a little overworked, or if they're feeling really open. Right now, my knees feel very vibrant, but you may have a different experience. Notice what you're feeling upward above the knees through your legs. Can you soften your seat? And can you soften the pelvic floor? Let go of any holding or gripping in your belly. So it can rise up and down as you breathe. Have your hands spun open. Let your fingers naturally curl in the more you let go. And then draw the attention all the way up to the mind's eye. And any energy that you are experiencing in some way, feel as though you're magnetizing it up all the way to the brow. The lotus looks so eloquent and beautiful, and it appears to just simply be resting on top of the water. But underneath the water is the stem. Below the mud is its roots. So it has quite a journey before it really materializes above the water. Think about how much we have to go through in life to finally achieve some positive alchemy or bouts of transformation of our own spiritual growth. Not seeing necessarily the struggles of our past or someone else's past. Oh, Mani Padme Hum, celebrate the jewel of the lotus, the resilient spirit residing in your heart. Begin deepening the flow of your breath and maneuvering in the extremities. Taking a stretch and then maybe curling in. Perhaps rocking side to side. Turning over to one. And using your hands to help you to guide your way up to take a seat. Sitting up nice and tall. Bringing that lotus mudra in front of your heart center. Om Mani Padme Hum. Celebrate the jewel of the lotus. Resilient spirit of your heart. Namaste.